Hey guys! I think it's time for another aircraft carrier action in World of Warships. And this time, we finally have a closer look at the Saipan, the Tier 6 American CV. This will be a rather enjoyable experience for all those who did grind through the frustration that the independence was a lot of times earlier. Now it's revenge time, and until it gets balanced out, you can really prey upon the lower tier carrier squadrons and have an evil laugh as they melt away helplessly. Now, that doesn't mean that you should not be careful about higher tier ships in general, but the overall situation is a lot more comfortable this time around. I still would not suggest to go with a full-on fighter-heavy layout, purely because in the games where there is no enemy CV, you will be mostly useless, and higher tier CVs can still punish you too. Before we go any deeper, here is your usual escape route to the gameplay if you want to skip ahead. At the end of the timestamp in the description, you will find a cool little run in the Saipan with 96,000 damage, 3 kills and 26 enemy planes shot down. See you there. For those of you who would like to know a bit more about the backgrounds of the Saipan as well, let's have a look first at the service record of this historical ship. The USS Saipan was a light aircraft carrier in the United States Navy that was built and launched at the end of the Second World War, but has been commissioned only almost a year after the war has finished. While during her 30-year career she was never directly involved in naval encounters, she did participate in a long list of very different missions. Commissioned in 1946, she did primarily serve as a training ship, and for a short period of time she served as the base of the Jet Fighter Squadron 17A, who in return became the world's first carrier-based jet squadron. Later on she patrolled the Korean waters, being mostly involved in surveillance and reconnaissance. Later down the line, she was planned to be converted to a command ship, but the plans were changed shortly after the works began, and she has instead been transformed into a major communications relay ship by 1965. Renamed as the USS Arlington, in the next years she continued to serve as a communications relay ship, supporting the fleet involved in the Vietnam War. Between 1968 and 1969, however, she received another mission, and quite a special one. Still acting as a communications relay ship, she participated in the recovery of 3 of the Apollo space capsules, Apollo 8, 10 and 11. After this last and grandiose task, she was laid to rest and in the end was sold for scrap in 1976. So after this little history lesson, I think it's time to take a closer look at the Saipan in-game as well. Forget the communications relay thing, and you won't be fishing for astronauts either. What you have here is a really good CV with a huge damage potential and the ability to really bully lower tier carriers with your fighters. The most important part is of course your planes, and I'm happy to tell you that fully upgraded, you finally get to control 4 squadrons at a time with the Saipan, giving you 2 torpedo bomber squadrons, 1 fighter squadron, and a pack of dive bombers on top. As only the last layout upgrade has the increased 4 squadron capacity, you won't have much space to play around with different loadouts this time, aka this exact layout is what you will have to use. But given the overall upgrade, that's actually fine. You also have 48 planes in total including reserves, so there is some room for error should the enemy AA prove to be a bit more potent than anticipated. Talking about AA, your last line of defense is pretty cool this time around. If you are lucky, you might even shoot down some of those pesky planes. Joke aside, your anti-air armament is pretty good, and consists of 4 127mm guns that can engage the enemy already from 5 km away, 1 quad and 10 dual 40mm guns that have a 3 km range, and finally 15 20mm guns that will join the fight within a 2 km radius. Now, those 4 127mm guns actually double up also as protection against ships too, but having only 2 in the front and 2 in the back is about as effective as it sounds. Armor-wise, it's actually looking quite good with a nicely armored citadel that has up to 152mm of protection, but the rest of the ship is no challenge to anything that will shoot at it, so don't expect wonders when you get in the range of the enemy ships. You can however take a few shots with over 41,000 HP, so try to use that extra time to try to sink your attacker. Mobility-wise, it's actually quite alright with a top speed of 34 knots, though it turns like a continent with a turning circle radius of 875 meters. And while you have a good top speed, you have to react to the changing situations early on, as from both air and from the sea, you are visible over 12 kilometers away already. And once you are spotted, you will become everyone's favorite target, guaranteed. Concerning the upgrades, apart from the basic hull upgrade, you have 2 fight control upgrades, changing your loadout. But as discussed, you really want the second one that gives you an additional squadron to handle. As the first upgrade here would give you 2 fighters and 1 dive bomber squad, I would suggest not to mount that one and go straight for the final upgrade. You also have now an available upgrade for your fighters and torpedo bombers as well, and you need to get them both ASAP. It upgrades the damage potential, the survivability, and most importantly, the speed as well of these aircraft types, all of which will be crucial. So don't get frustrated if you don't feel powerful enough stock. This will change rather soon, I guarantee you. Regarding the optional upgrades, here is what I did choose. I did go with Air Groups Modifications 1 and 2 and Damage Control System Modification 1 and 2. The first group being a 10% increase in aircraft gun performance and a 20% fighter survivability increase, which is massive. As for the damage control upgrades, number 1 gives you a reduced chance of flooding and fire, and number 2 will help you reduce the recovery time from fires and flooding. The first 2 upgrades really help you a lot to become a real bully with your fighters, and the last 2 upgrades will help you give you a fighting chance when you do get under an enemy fire. About the commander skills, I suggest the following. For Tier 1, take basic fire training to increase your AA capabilities. At Tier 2, I suggest Area Reconnaissance to increase your aircraft's view radius with an additional 10%. At Tier 3, I took Situational Awareness to indicate when you are spotted, indicating it's time to run, if it's not too late already, that is. At Tier 4, I suggest Advanced Flight Training for an overall reduced aircraft servicing time and the increased plane survivability, though alternatively the additional 10% increased fighter damage sounds really good too. And at Tier 5, it's without questions the only real choice for you is Air Supremacy, giving you an additional torpedo bomber and dive bomber per squadron. So overall, what's the verdict on the Saipan? Well, all I can say is that it's really worth to get through all the annoyances with the Independence. This CV is nicely rounded and you will almost never feel outclassed. You can dish out some serious damage consistently if you are careful, and that's all that we really need. But enough of me rambling about, let's jump onto the match and show you how the Saipan can dominate. Alright, so here we are in the Saipan on the fault line map. It will be a standard battle, so let's go and destroy all those ships. And looking at the team lineup, well, it couldn't be really much better than that. We are top tier, and the enemy carrier is a really unfortunate Independence. So that means we pretty much have air supremacy guaranteed. Also looking at the battleships, unfortunately there will be only 2 enemy battleships. But one of them is a Warspite, and I never torpedoed a Warspite before, so that's something I'm really looking forward to doing. So beginning of the match, I just quickly put down the waypoints for all of the flying squadrons, to get them out in the air as soon as possible. And what I like to do is to go on a little scouting run with my fighters right in the beginning of the match. Yep, here is the lineup. A lot of tier 5s and 4s, even some St. Louis ships tier 3, so we really shouldn't be having much problems in this at this stage. So that should give us a nice opportunity to demonstrate what the Saipan can do. And don't misunderstand me. The Saipan can do really well even if it goes against tier 7 and tier 8 ships. Just have to be a bit more careful. In this game, yeah, probably not so much. Alright, so our fighters did pick up the first battleship, and there is the other one. So the right one should be a Congo, if I remember the names of the players correctly, and the one going left is the Warspite. So until I get into position, I quickly try to do some more scouting, and this cruiser should do nicely. to be the first target. He's alone, so I can engage with my dive bombers, no problem. Dive bombers, when it's not about cap resetting, is about harassment anyway. You can try to go after really badly damaged ships as well. But otherwise, yeah, they are not really that useful at this moment in the game. This battleship, however, I think he's seen me, because he's turning. But we just have to adjust a little bit. And no, that's a bit... yeah, that will be better. So let's see what we can get out of this run. Well, it was not a perfect hit, but that's 4 torpedoes anyway. Okay, number 3 can go back and reload, and let's see if we can do a second run with number 4, who was a bit further away. We are being shot at, so that's not really good. But we only lost 1 plane so far, so this should be still good. Oh, 2 planes, that's only 4 torpedoes in the water. But that looks like a nicely aimed shot. Oh yes. Sorry son, you will eat all of those torpedoes. There we go. So yeah, I did see in the meantime that we shot down 3 planes, 4. And that's actually one of the enemy fighters. He foolishly attacked us while I was not watching. And our fighters did the job as expected. And that was his defense. And now it's time to go after the torpedo bombers. Well, of course we have to be a bit careful. There are a lot of ships in that sector, so flying over them to engage would be quite foolish. But he's coming this way, so first of all I expect that the enemy CV is hiding behind that little island down in the bottom. And most importantly, the torpedo bombers will come this way, so as soon as they leave the AA area of the enemy ships, I can engage without any problems. Oh, there we go, there is the enemy CV. And it seems the Congo was a little bit foolish and did use his repair ability after the first torpedo run, so he couldn't do anything about the second round of flooding that I caused with my other torpedo hits. And yeah, he did eventually sink. Now, it seems I have been engaged with the second fighter squadron. That's fine, just shoot down a bit more planes. It's alright, he will run out of those fighters very, very shortly if he continues to engage me. But I have to admit, for the moment he did save his torpedo bomber, so I guess it was not all in vain. However, we are already at 10 planes shot down at this stage, and it's only going for a couple of minutes. So that's not a bad result. Okay, so let's drop some bomb on this guy who is derping around between the islands. That won't really save you from dive bombers, I'm afraid.
We're under attack.
Oh, it would be so good if the bombers would actually do some damage as well. Right now, it's pathetic. There we go, 240 damage, 304 damage, so overall, complete run. We set him on fire, which he can easily repair. And yeah, fire doesn't do that much damage anyway. And we did a massive 500 damage with that run. I mean, yeah, it's just what dive bombers are at the moment. But you get them for free with this layout, so there is no reason why we wouldn't be using them. If nothing else, they can at least scout, so that's that.
Waypoint reached.
Okay, so that cruiser is screwed, sandwiched between 2 battleships, so I can direct my attention to the western flank, which needs a bit more help, it seems. There's a bigger concentration of enemy ships there, so that should give me enough targets to shoot at. I could go here for the enemy CV as well. I know very well where he is located. but to be frank, he's not much of a threat at the moment. He's completely outclassed by my fighters, and a more urgent threat is all those ships, enemy ships in the western sector. So the right seems completely secure, but we are still losing with one ship. Yeah, 4 to 5. It's time to change that. Okay, there is enemy torpedo squadrons coming up. And the enemy fighters as well, and oh yeah, he did see my torpedo bombers, and he's trying to intercept. But we are having none of that. First of all, my planes are quite fast, because they are already upgraded. And secondly, they have quite a lot of health as well, so I'm not really afraid, to be honest. If this would be... Oh, and it's only 2 planes, because I shot everything else down already. So, yeah, not really bothered. Now, if this would be a tier 7 Ranger, I would be running back to some cover with those torpedo bombers. Look at that! My torpedo bombers actually did shoot down one of the fighters, so yeah, it's just not fair. Okay, so that warship, sorry, so that battleship, the Warspite, is maneuvering quite frantically. So I hear it's quite tough to sink with torpedoes, because it's quite heavily armored. We shall put that to the test, I think. That looks good. Number 3. A bit derping around there. It's okay. I messed this one up already. So now we just turn him around and attack from the other side, because he might be able to make sharp turns. But now he's slowed down. Unfortunately, I lost 3 of my planes on that squadron, so that's only 3 torpedoes, and that he can avoid quite easily. It's quite unfortunate. Well, that's alright. Oh well. And the torpedo squadron is going back between above the enemy ships. So we will lose that squadron. It's quite unfortunate, but it was already mostly shot down anyway. If not, I could have just set some waypoints to take him out of that death zone that these ships create with all their AA guns. By the way, what I'm doing here with my fighters, I'm just parking him right there. So, first of all, the enemy CV is spotted, and second of all, I can prey upon the enemy planes as soon as he launches them. So my fighters are about fully loaded, so I will be able to take down quite a lot of planes before I have to go for a refuel. However, we are still losing by 1. It's quite unfortunate. It seems that our team is not the strongest. But that's okay. We just keep pounding these ships until we win. There you go again. Just over 600 damage with 1 run. Only one of the bombs hit. And there we go. That's exactly why we were staying in that spot. So now we can right away intercept that enemy torpedo squadron. Now it seems he has some more fighters, which is strange. Maybe one of the fighters did actually survive. And look at that speed. The speed at which the enemy torpedo squadron is melting away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 6. And they are almost gone. And in the meantime, it seems fire did eventually finish out that cruiser. Well, we were not doing most of the damage. He was taking quite a bit of pounding from enemy ships, but at the same time he was not able to put out the fire, and it seems the last stick was from the fire, so we do get the kill. A bit of a kill stealing there, I feel, but we won't say no to it. And here is a relatively slow-moving cruiser. So if he is not watching, we will take advantage of that. And look at this. Nope, son, that's too late. We did score 4 hits there, but even the first torpedo hit was enough to sink him. So unfortunately that only counts as 1 successful hit. But hey, suddenly we are winning by 10-7, so we did manage to turn this around together with the team. It took a while, but now it's only the enemy Warspite and the CV. But that's what's left, and we know very well where both of them are. The Warspite is sailing here on the western flank, probably just pulling back towards the CV. And the CV didn't move the entire game, so now it's time to put these guys out of business. There is the Warspite, and yep, the CV is trying to join up with him. And that means they will be now both quite open to enemy fire. So dive bombers should be attacking the CV, and at my torpedo squadrons I go after the Warspite. Because dive bombers might not be able to do much damage, but if we manage to set him on fire, he can't land or his planes until he puts the fires out. And so that seems like the second good run on the Warspite. And yep, it's 3 more hits on him. Yeah, it's actually seems to be the case that it's quite difficult to sink Warspites with torpedoes. Doesn't mean he doesn't take damage. He can withstand quite a bit of fire. And this is now the end game. It's only a question how much more damage we can inflict on these ships. Well, it seems a good opportunity to shoot some more planes down. Let's see what the dive bombers do with the CV. Yeah, we set him once on fire. We lost quite a lot of planes in return, so it's not the most effective of runs, to be honest. And we lose that squadron completely. However, we are now able to take down this torpedo squadron as well. So I think that's about most of his planes. We are at 25 planes shot down at the moment. Come on, guys. Well, respect where respect's due. Yet Warspite is not giving up. He's trying to reset the cap. But he is now screwed. Would be nice to get some more torpedoes in. I don't think we will get that lucky. But at least it seems we can intercept the last torpedo squadron that he has. Well, I assume it's the last.
Ready for takeoff.
In the meantime, if you noticed... Yep, and there goes the Warspite. So if you noticed, as soon as the front was clear, I started to move up with my CV as well, because that allows me to launch my fighters, well, to get my fighters back into action a lot faster, because they don't have to travel all the way across the map for a refill and then come back all the way once again. So we are heavily capping. It's quite surprising that nobody is going after that CV. Because he will be in cover quite shortly. Oh, that was a badly aimed shot by someone. However, we might just be able to launch a last torpedo attack on him. It's really close. But now there is 4 ships capping, so the timer goes down as crazy. And there is 1 salvo, here come the other planes, but no, it's just not enough time. So unfortunate, that would have been kill number 4 most probably. But overall we can't really complain. It's 3 ships sunk, 16 torpedo hits, 27 planes shot down. And yeah, we did finish on the number 1 spot, although that Warspite on our team did a really good job as well. So I hope that did show what you can do with the Saipan. We did about 94,000, 93,500 damage with torpedo hits and 2,500 direct damage with the dive bombers. So yeah, that's why you take torpedo bombers with you. It's just shitloads of damage. So that was my quick review on the Saipan. I hope you will enjoy playing it as much as I did. If you did find this video useful, please consider liking or sharing it. It truly helps. By the way, I really hope we will soon have an official replay system in World of Warships. I know these carrier gameplays are not as spectacular as they could be with the right replay options. Unfortunately right now all I can do is live recording with some post commentary, so we are stuck with the map view for the time being. Next up is the last of the Tier 2 RT pieces with the French Renault FTBS, and I'm also working on some new interesting topics for later on. Take care guys, and I see you on the battlefield.